Word broke overnight that the terror suspect, Anwar al-awlaki, has been killed, apparently by American strikes, drones or jets. You'll remember him. He's an American-born citizen, born in New Mexico, linked to al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, accused of helping try to arrange that bombing on Christmas Day in Detroit, the underwear bomber, the attempted bombing in Times Square, the Fort Hood shooter, and perhaps even meeting with 9/11 attackers. So Anwar al-awlaki, by all reports, dead in Yemen thanks to American strikes.
Yeah, and apparently his biggest asset was the fact that, one, he knew how to use modern technology very well on the Internet, and two, he was incredibly charismatic.
He was. Here to talk about this is a gentleman who's been kind enough to join us on other occasions. You know him probably from Fox News and other spots. One of the foremost experts in defense in our country, Dr. Walid Phares, a professor at the National Defense University and advisor to the Anti-Terrorism Caucus of the United States House of Representatives. His newest book is The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. Good morning to you, Doctor. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning to you in South Florida.
Thank you. What does this mean for our battle against al-Qaeda and terrorism?
It is a very important benchmark because al-awlaki, unlike the other commanders of al-Qaeda or the commanders of the Jihadist forces, has had two important positions. One, he was out of Yemen coordinating many groups in their targeting of American interests both in the region and here. He had jihadists from Somalia, Shabab al-Jihad, you just mentioned in the introduction, for example, that he was in communication with the Christmas Day bomber, the Abdul Muttalib guy from Nigeria, and on and on. So he was not just a local al-Qaeda commander in Yemen, but he was based in Yemen, operating in the region and against us from the region. The second more important element, though, is that he was born in the United States, knows the system, operated in the open here, and then went into the underground. But as you also said, he had communications with important jihadi operatives. One of their actions was very bloody, Fort Hood. Others were about to be bloody, including Shahzad in New York. So this is a major benchmark. But again, we have to be cautious. This is not the end of it. This is part of it. So an important commander was taken out, but his followers, his supporters, the people he has indoctrinated are still around.
Yeah, it seems that his greatest ability was to be able to communicate with people through the internet. I mean, he seemed to create this entire movement by communicating with people maybe he had never met before, but had infiltrated them through the internet. Was that his biggest tool?
Look, we all sometimes focus on internet as a tool for communications, but we all use it every day for everything.
Right.
So you've got to project that he's not the only one who used it, but he's the most prominent one who happened to have used it, in the sense that his entire web, the international entire web, I shouldn't say entire, but a large segment of the international web is based on internet, so are everything else in the world. So he knew how to use technology to continue with the communications with people across the oceans. He doesn't have to meet. You're right. He didn't have to meet those people. He stayed in touch with them, and God knows it's not just email. He could have been having chat rooms, discussions with them for hours and hours, for as long as it needed to be indoctrinated. So yes, he was an important user of technology.
Yeah, he was number one on our hit parade. He's the one we wanted at this point after the death of Bin Laden. Who's next? Who becomes number one now?
Now there's a big space because, of course, symbolically speaking, Zawahiri remains the major target because he's the head of al-Qaeda. But after al-awlaki, you've got to look at who is in that, what I call the international operation room of al-Qaeda, not just the locals. One name seems to be surfacing is Ali Shukri Juma, the guy who was in Florida, by the way, who has been appointed a year and a half ago or so as the chief operator for coordination, meaning he was doing what al-awlaki was doing, but with less charisma. He's the one who tried to connect people from different places, different continents, and then, task them with missions. That could be a logical next target, but of course, intelligence services in the United States and, with allies are, of course, sharing information and trying to see who should be next.
We're talking to Dr. Walid Phares, whose latest book is called The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. And we're talking about the apparent death of Anwar al-awlaki, the American-born cleric who has been at the top of our most wanted list for a long time. Does this frighten off other potential al-Qaeda wannabes? Are we doing that job by killing their most noted terrorists?
Actually, the direct answer is no. The public needs to understand that the jihadists are not the mafia. You know, when we fight criminal activities or criminal networks and we take out the capo or the capo for all capi, what happens? There'll be a deterrent against the others because the others want to continue with their criminal activities untouched. In the case of the jihadists, what we miss is the ideology, which actually indoctrinates the minds of these people when they are already recruited. I'm not talking about the people who are neutral outside the network, but inside the network, those that al-Awlaki was doing business with, will look at his death as a projection of what he promised in his own speeches and the speeches of bin Laden, of everybody dead or alive. They always tell their people, our mission here on earth is limited. At one time, the infidel is going to take us out, and then you will come and take over. So the effect of killing him will deter others from coming is not going to happen. But what would that do, basically? It would give a space for our law enforcement, intelligence services to engage with anti-jihadist elements in the region. That would encourage those who are against al-Qaeda to be more against al-Qaeda, not to be afraid of it, not the al-Qaeda members to be deterred.
Very, very important point. Dr. Phares, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time again this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.